beloved sisters. Love you all. This is a special night, and we're just going to we're going to continue on in in building up the spirit man that lives within us. This I should say, or woman, the she, the Ruach HaKodesh. So I just want to preface this. I did this presentation, and I use for the names, I use Yahuah. I've discovered that Yahuah was the name of the being in the bush, and that was the revealed name to Moshe before everybody went into the wilderness. And I believe we're about ready to start something like that ourselves. So that don't be confused by that, and whatever you use for your name is fine. This is just my journey and where I'm going. And also for Yahusha, I use Ashaya, which is another discovery, but that's for another day. But it's all the same. He knows his name, and I just wanted to preface that to you guys. Yes, we're going into this part of the latter days, and I just feel very impressed upon how we need to get prepared, both not just physically but inwardly. And so I went to Matthew Nolan's One New Man and pulled out some things from there, which I would highly suggest everybody to take a look at that and listen to it. It's extremely good. And we will start right now. Let me share the screen. First, I think I'm gonna stop my video. Okay. Now, do I have to do anything else? Is that full screen for you guys?
No, it's not. So you need to go like from the beginning up in your PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Very good. Okay, this is I titled this Our Kingdom Identity. Okay, my frame was not hidden from you, and when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth, your eyes saw my substance, being yet unformed. And in your book, they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious also are your thoughts to me, O Elohim. How great is the sum of them. If I should count them, they should be more in number than the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. So it starts in the garden. This is where it all begins. The MelkiTzedek beginnings. So what happened in the garden after Adam and Hava disobeyed Yahuah? Genesis 3:7 says, the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Everything at that moment changed. The complete perfect union with Yahuah was broken, and so was the perfect kingdom existence that had changed. And they were taken out of the kingdom of Yahuah and now forced to live in the kingdom realm of Satan. And their eyes were opened, and Yahuah covered the glory of their light bodies to ones with garments of flesh. I believe that is when the five senses were heightened to what we know now. So what now for the descendants of Adam and Hava? This is where the journey begins. We know who, how, what, and where reached the gap of the two realms of the son of Yahuah. The Abrahamic promise from Genesis 12 and the covenant made in Genesis 15 that foreshadowed Yeshua's death was to bridge the gap to the garden, the kingdom. So Yeshua brought back the keys to the kingdom when he died and was resurrected, enabling us to live in the kingdom of heaven while here on earth. So what does that mean? On earth, it is on earth as it is in heaven, in the kingdom of heaven, meaning the body of Messiah can bring down kingdom authority here into the earthly realm. So, I mean, prior to that, the saints of old, they didn't have that ability. They had to just trust him. But we now have a greater power and authority. And so this is where we have to see ourselves of who we are in this new MelkiTzedek priesthood, because that's what we moved into. Once he went to the tree, the Levitical priesthood now moved into the MelkiTzedek priesthood, making us all kings and priests. I mean, in a kingdom of priests. Sorry about that. Yahuah created man in the likeness of himself, a three-part being. So Yahuah, the triune being, is Father, Son, and Ruach, and man, the spirit, soul, and body. So before sin, Adam and Hava were in the continual presence of Yahuah, never having to strive for closeness. The three parts of their being were in constant union with him. And after sin, those same three parts became broken and changed. I can't even imagine what that, when you really sit and meditate on that, it had to be an enormous change. We don't know because we know nothing else, but we're going to investigate that. As stated earlier, man's senses were heightened and stimulated by the visual things of the earthly realm. They saw themselves naked, experiencing shame for the first time and trying to cover their shame with fig leaves. And I looked up fig leaves, and that is H8384. And under that, it did have, I think it was H8383, which had some root tie to it. So I went before and after it, and I found it very interesting. So 8383 is to whom, and it means naughtiness, toil, or lie. So that's an interesting thing. Then in H8385, it means occasion, a time of heat or oestrus or copulation, sexual drive of an animal, occasion, opportunity for quarrel. So, wow, you can see that surrounding the fig leaves, which the fig leaves, of course, cover a fruit, those beautiful, luscious leaves cover this beautiful fruit. So you can see when they don themselves with the fig leaves that it had much more of a hidden meaning in it. And so I think of the things that changed in it. And I think it's a perversion of love. We can't even fathom the depth of the love that Yahuah had for us and what that felt like to be in the presence of that love and then to be without it. So Adam and Eve had complete wholeness and perfect love, absent of fear and sin. A great brokenness occurred, leaving a hole in each man's being that craves to be filled. The soul was left trying to be completed through the five senses in this visual soulish realm. So here's a diagram. Of course, this is body, soul, and spirit. Get my little cursor out here. Body, soul, and spirit. On this, you have your five senses. And then in this part is your intellect and reasoning, where your will resides, soul. This is the seat of inspiration, your conscience, your intuition. And on this side of the spirit, you have, more of your love, joy, and that's the seed of that. On this side is your emotions of fear, lust, and ecstasy. So it's like an attitude. So you can see when the body rules, this side is more on the negative side, this side is more on the positive side of where things lead. Okay, so this is another picture of the body, soul, and spirit. We have the knowledge and experience, and the visual, audio, touch, smell, and taste. And this is where the senses reside. And the soul is the governor. This is where the will resides, decision making and choices. And the spirit is the mind and thinking, intuition, the still small voice. So how do we transcend from the soulish part of our being that happened after being forced out of the garden? How do we get back to a kingdom part of our being? Is the question. So how do we train ourselves to reign in the kingdom realm? Things that are that feed the flesh is visual, and you just see on that one side is all the secular things, and then on the other side is feeding the spirit and having quiet time and reading the word, psalms and prayer. These are two just diagrams of the disobedient soul versus the obedient soul. So when depending on your will and what side you shift to, there's the disobedient soul has an look of arrogance, grumbling, reason, intelligence, like you're smarter than everybody else, pride, stubbornness, stiff-necked, secular reading and listening. And on the other side, on the obedient soul, is discipline, softness, open and teachable, joyful, humble. You're communing with the Yahuah and the washing of the word in praise and worship. Okay, three things Yahuah desires for his children. The first one is the deliverance from sin, which is where most people's just hanging out and never go anywhere further past that. But there is so much more that he desires for his chosen. There's deliverance from your natural self, not just being a moral person, but someone that shines light and joy continually. So your natural self can be, even though you're moral, you can be somewhat selfish and not caring about anything except what pertains to you. You're not hurting anybody, or you're just basically being kind or whatever, and not going past that. So we want deliverance from that. We want to be thinking outside of that box. Okay, and then deliverance from the realm of the wicked principalities that barrage us every day. And you know how that is. I mean, you've got things where people cut you off in the car, or, somebody is ugly at the store. And you want to have totally different reactions and be in shalom when these trials come your way. And they can even do more than that, of course, we know. So these two are where we want to keep going past and not let the enemy have any ground in our lives. How do we do that? So again, in this diagram, this is where we want to be. We want to be so heavy in the spirit, so heavy in the spirit. And the soul would be yielding. That would be the word, yielding to that spirit, so that the body would react the way the spirit wants it to react. It wouldn't be our will, it would be with the spirit's will. And on the other side, the spirit is not even tapped into. The spirit is more like, spiritual. It's not leading and guiding. And the soul, of course, is more guiding the body, so it's feeding the flesh, but we want to die to the flesh. So what do you feed your spirit? Life and death are in the power of the tongue. I can't even read this to upper part here. My screen's so full. Um, I can't even see that. Oh well, it says how to.
How to fill and nourish the spirit.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do that? How do we nourish that spirit? And it really is willing yourself to take the time to have communion with Yahuah, and that is quietly spending time in the Word, which I know can be very challenging sometimes for especially busy moms or people that are working. But it's carving that time out, and not particularly studying. Studying is like knowledge, and I think Matthew said it. That's where he got so filled with knowledge and kind of puffed up. And now he says just reading and just taking in and drinking in and consuming the word, reading the Psalms is one of his favorites, and it's one of mine as well. So that would be you get so much from that, just being in the word and reading it and enjoying it. And then worship, carve out time for peaceful music during the day or at night before sleeping, to just soak in the music that is scripture based with your eyes closed. And even most phones now, I think you can use them like an MP3 player, but that's what I have. I have an MP3 player, and I'm plugged in for a lot of the day. Again, I know when you have children, you really can't do that, but carving out that time, even if it is at night, as you're going to sleep, to soak in that music, and you'd be amazed how that ministers to the deep down into your spirit man. And then prayer. Make a prayer list of specific situations that you're experiencing, like children, family problems, trials. Ask Yahuah how to react to them, because that's where it changes how we view things, by how our reactions are. It makes it go one way or the other, in the positive or the negative, or into that place of his peace and his shalom, or into the negative of everything's bad and it's a horrible world that we live in. Those are the things that would go through your minds as you, depending on your reactions. So the thing is, the key, one of the biggest keys, is thankfulness. Always praise and thanksgiving throughout the day, even when you don't feel it. This, I have learned, has been one of my biggest answers in my life, and it works. I tell you, it works. I'm amazed at how, even when we don't take everything into our own hands and react, he handles it for you. And so I hear a couple examples. I hear the children are cranky and squabbling. Certainly, I remember those days, especially when you're trying to cook supper by the end of the day, and everybody's a little tired. But if you can make that conscious decision to let the will be thankful and thank Yahuah for the family you have and the noise, and bless those who are all alone and have no family. I mean, you have to think of the good things that you have, and you have children that are healthy. I knew some people that the children, had terrible medical problems, and they couldn't speak, so. And I remember, this is a cute little story, is my grandmother, Nana. She was all by herself for a very long time. And I came and lived in her house for 3 years. And it was an answer to her prayers, actually. She was going to go into a home. And she was perfectly healthy. And she had perfect mind and everything. And going in a senior home would have been pretty hard, I think, for her. But we came and lived with her, and my boys were really noisy, and their bedrooms were right over her head where she sat over in her chair. And a lot of times they would jump off their bed and hit the floor, and I'd say, "Oh, boys, you got to stop that, poor Nana." And I went down and, I'd apologize to her. And she says, "Oh my goodness, you have no idea. I welcome the noise. It's been so quiet here for all these years." as long as I don't have plaster coming down on my head, she says, let them do whatever they want. So I just, you think about these things and so be just and outwardly thank him. Say, Abba, thank you for these children. They're a handful, but I just thank you for them. I thank you for their health. I thank you that they're active. Okay, and then the car won't start and the money is tight. Thank Abba for the ability to get the car fixed in a country full of mechanics. Number one, thank him for actually even having a car. Thank him for the family and friends that can help, and also thank him ahead of time for preparing the way to resolve the issue and for the funds he will provide. And it's amazing when you do that. He just honors it. He does. So, and once you get into the habit of thankfulness and do it in everything, your mood changes, the joy comes back, and you will see effective changes in your life. Okay, the one thing I can say that is an inhibitor is fear to those keys to the kingdom and living in that kingdom realm. Because we do want to come out of this, what we see here and all the five senses of this world and see the invisible. But let's look at an image of a mountain and what lives at the top of this mountain. The love of Yahuah or the fear that dominates in your life, depending on what resides at the top of your mountain, influences every decision you make on the way down. So let's say you have a fear of not being liked, and you might overcompensate by trying to do many acts of kindness to feel accepted, thus putting your husband or your children last or out of balance, at least. So whatever is at the top of your mountain, you need to spend time and think, what is there? Is there anything that influences how I think and making my decisions? Whatever at the top of the mountain where the soulish realm of feelings and emotions are, anxiousness and unrest manifest themselves. So what does the scripture say about combating fear? Well, perfect love casts out fear. As 1 John 4:18. It says in 1 John 4:9, and this was manifested, the love of Yahuah towards us, because he sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him. And that's the key, is that we live through him and in him. So he manifested Yahuah's love towards us. He loves us so much. It's hard to even fathom. You have to see yourself through his eyes. And then 1 John 4:19, we love him because he first loved us. And then Psalm 143, cause me to hear your loving kindness in the morning, for in you I trust. Cause me to know in which way I should walk, for I lift up my soul to you. That is where we want to do. We want to, again, will that soul to go towards the direction of the Spirit, to the Ruach and the heavenlies, the kingdom. Isaiah 49:15 and 16. Can a woman forget her nursing child and not have compassion on the son of her womb? Surely they may forget, yet I will not forget you. See, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. And that right there, you are his. And I was talking to my dear friend that I have such high regard for what she has to say. And she said that Yahuah gave her this thought or this understanding that he knew you before you were in your mother's womb. And he talked to each one of you back as you were in the spirit realm. And that's why you have this thing that resonates in you, even as a child, that draws you to himself, that he spoke to you and you're his. So he loves you with an everlasting love. And then John 15:13, greater love has no one than this, that than to lay down one's life for his friends, and as our husband Yahusha did for us. Okay. By the word of Yahuah declaring his love for you, grasp on how deep and sincere his desire is for you. His love, he's loving, and I can't read past that. His love is endless and unconditional. Abide in that love by staying close to him and believing every single word that is written. There are no lies in Yahuah. So whatever he says to you, believe it. As Yahuah, ask Yahuah to erase every wrong word that has been spoken over you, whether it was your childhood or whatever, or a hard life up to the point of where you are now, and fill you with how he perceives you. Then walk out your days knowing that you are his, and he's the one that gives you your identity, nobody else. Okay, creating kingdom living. First, you have to be surrendering your will to the will of the Ruach HaKodesh. First and foremost, that is it. No matter what you think you want to do, if you get that still, small, and uneasy feeling, you need to yield to what he's telling you. Listening to the small, intuitive voice of the Spirit, yes, and yielding the flesh to the will of the Spirit. Keeping your eyes fixed on the word by consuming the bread of life. Keeping your ears tuned to the kingdom praise music, not secular. Tune out the news. Their news is not the good news of the kingdom. Their news is the bad news of this world. We don't need to be wallowing in that. Move from the inner man to the outer man. This is, not vice versa. This is huge. This is where, when you start building that inner man, you want to release that out to the outer part and start acting on it through the body. And remembering the promises of Yahuah that build courage and confidence. Once you start understanding and truly get the depth of what he says about you, that's where your confidence and the building up of your spirit comes. The spirit man will bring that confidence. And remembering that the fight has already been won. It's already game over, done. And the story's already written, so you can walk in that victory. And then, I see I have a typo here. Remembering that Yahuah lets us go through situations for training, for reigning. Don't forget his perception of you. But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous, marvelous light. We are chosen, and we are a priesthood, and he loves us. Okay, these are scripture verses that I don't know if you want to write them down. I can put them in the chat later if you want to copy and paste them. And these are all about building up the spirit and talking about the soul. But that's basically what I have for you today. The one thing I can tell you is that whatever it looks like here at ground level, it looks totally different from above. And there's victory in the above, in the kingdom realm. And somebody gave me a picture story of that, where they were talking about the big invasion, the storming of Normandy. And as I don't know if everybody's seen Private Ryan, but it's pretty graphic and pretty hard to watch. But at ground level, I mean, these young men thought there's absolutely no way we're going to win this war. No way. The carnage, the onslaught that was happening to them. But far up above in the airplanes, as the generals and all the big muckety mucks up there were looking at this thing going on, they were up there saying, there is no way we're going to lose. The onslaught to this one area that they had to defeat was enormous. And so there was no question in their mind that war was won there. So that's what we have to really keep in our minds, that Yahuah has everything. He is so far above it all, and we just have to walk in that confidence and that love and understand who you are. And that for me was huge, because when I became saved, that is where I started learning my identity. It's not what I was and what I did and where I came from. And boy, that has absolutely changed my life. And one of my favorite verses is Isaiah 54, which is about the wife who was forgotten and forlorn, and he with everlasting love takes her back into himself. And that was life-changing for me. So anyway, I just want to pray over you, if you don't mind, as we end. Pray a prayer over you girls, because we are a sisterhood. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yahuah, Asher Yahuah. Thank you for your Ruach HaKodesh that lives within us. Thank you for the continual instruction through your word and the teacher, the comforter you sent to us through your son's obedience to do your will. Thank you for all that you are and all that you have chosen for us on our behalf. Thank you that you know us from the inside out. You have a full understanding of who we are and the identity that you have bestowed upon us. I ask that you reveal to us that identity and your perception of who we are. Fill our hearts and minds to such a degree, enabling us to stand up in our identity, walk in it, and inhabit it, and do it all for your glory. Help us to be mindful to put on Mashiach daily by clothing us in the priestly garments you fashioned for us. The white linen tunic, the helmet, the breastplate, the belt, the sandals, the shield, and the word. Help us, Father, to stand in every situation and see it through your perception and through your abilities to handle it. Help us, Father, to relinquish our will, our flesh, and our emotions of the soulish realm, and transform our body and thoughts into your spiritual realm and your will. Help us not to take it back. We thank you, Abba, for all the current circumstances and all the ones from our past. May we be upgraded and increased in your abilities that are available to us right now. Help us to continually look to your kingdom for every answer and to be an overcomer of this earthly kingdom that we live in presently. And help us by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, by submitting our will to her to choose and stand with you. We rejoice in you. We thank you for our individual identities. We thank you for what you are doing. We thank you for what you are revealing to us, what you are releasing in us and through us. We thank you for an increased perception of ourselves through you. Thank you for preparing us for the days to come by your spirit, your strength, and your ability. And we give all glory, honor, and praise to you, Father, as you continue to grow us and teach us in your ways through your eyes. Your kingdom come, thy will be done. So be it.